Believe it or not, yes, the regular season in the NFL is over. The last time Mark Lawrence and Ryan Dunleavy were on this show together, on this channel together, with yours truly, the season had not begun yet. But here we are. That's life as an NFL contributor, follower, fan, whatever you want to slip in there. Ryan, went by fast again. Unfortunately, covering the New York teams, it was not the season that not just the fans, but even when you're covering teams, you do like to see them compete and win every once in a while. It's better for you.
It's better for the job to cover a winning team than a losing team. Yeah, I would not say. I would argue with your point that the season went fast. When Aaron Rodgers gets injured on the fourth play and the Giants lose by 40-0 in week 1, it was like, okay, when is January 8th coming?
Yeah, I can imagine that. I think there were a lot of Jet fans when that happened. They probably, that did not shock them, surprise them in the least. There's a percentage of them that probably were like, oh, yeah, that's what I expected. Yeah, okay. Mark, good to have you back here on this particular show. Of course, I see you every week, but we haven't talked about the NFL with Ryan all season, so we're going to go back with our predictions. And I know you didn't have a whole lot of time to look back at the predictions that you made at the beginning of the season, but can you imagine which one? I know you probably look at it and go, wow, I didn't even know I picked that team. Or I didn't even realize that in a good way that I picked that team. Was there anybody, when you take a look at those teams that you predicted in the beginning of the season, anything good, bad, or surprising?
Well, if I could strike 2 teams off of the list, they would be each of the 7 choices I had to make 7 seeds, and they would be the New York Jets and the Atlanta Falcons, both deeply disappointing. I don't know if I had any surprises per se. Jacksonville choked like a dog.
Yeah.
And didn't make it. So Miami sort of lived up to expectations. They could have been the 2 seed rather than Buffalo, but they couldn't carry that task out. And on the other side, the New York Giants obviously were disappointing. I had them as high as a number 2 seed. So obviously I blew that one.
Yeah, I'm not. Anytime you make predictions like you did on teams like the Jets, the Bengals, forget that. I mean, that's just, those are injuries, and you can't really anything's going to happen there. But Jacksonville definitely disappointing. Giants definitely disappointing. And Atlanta was a 7 seed, so but it was you did predict 2 teams from the South, and once again, New Orleans did not make it. I know you've backed New Orleans before, so sort of like Ryan got off the LA Charger bandwagon at least 1 year early. I decided to go into it one more time, and I paid the price. How about you, Ryan?
You can't do much worse than I did. My AFC championship was Bengals over Jets. Neither team made the playoffs. We touched on both teams lost their quarterbacks, so I guess I could get a mulligan there. But had Jacksonville, they didn't make it. Had the Chargers as a 7 seed, they didn't make it. So I guess I got the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Bills right, which is like if you don't get those 3 right, you don't watch the NFL every year. And the NFC, I had Philly and San Francisco 1-2. It should have been right until Philly's gag job. Detroit 3, that's right. And then New Orleans and the Giants and Seattle, none of them made it. And then Dallas. So I got the obvious ones right, and anything I took a shot on, I got wrong, basically.
Yeah, we all went in with Jacksonville, and they made us look bad. I had the Bengals and the Jets too, so there you go with the injuries. Chargers again, that was the big. That's the one that really blew it for me. I did have Pittsburgh making it, and I did well in the NFC because I had my top 4 were San Francisco, Dallas, Detroit, and Tampa Bay. So, and then I had Green Bay 7th.
Well, that's kudos, Greg. That's exactly where they fell to the seed: San Francisco, Dallas, Detroit.
I guess you're the winner.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, that was and then Seattle, really, it was just about not being able to beat the Rams. And the Giants, we all kind of fell
suckered
for that
in
one.
there. Yep.
Yeah. Matter of fact.
How about my 80-1 playoff sleeper? Carolina.
Did you say 800-1, Ryan?
Jesus, 80-1. They won 2 games, all right? Pay a little attention, Ryan.
Yeah, that was all. That's a lot of coaching there. Looks. I don't know what happened to Frank Reich. He just really lost it. And anything that Tepper does seems to turn to coal. So that's going to be an interesting story. Ryan is going to be because the kid from Detroit who did interview last year, and the question is going to be, does he trust and feel that that's a situation that he wants to get into? Because I
You have to
know
be
Tepper
nuts.
wants him. The question, though, I said, and I spoke to Rashad Beard, who covers the Panthers for Panther Nation podcast YouTube channel, and he said that he thinks that the way to do it is you hire I think it's Agnew, hire the assistant GM at Detroit, and then you bring in Johnson as a pair.
I wouldn't work for David Tepper if I had any other job choices as these guys. He's got to prove to me that he has patience. He's got to prove to me he's an adult. Throwing the water at the Jaguars fans, like, no. I mean, look, I get it. If you're 55 years old and you feel this is your one shot, if you're Ben Johnson, look elsewhere.
Yeah, Mark, that means there might be. What do you think? There'll probably be some. Are we going to get one of those? Who was that guy who was hired by the Texans last year?
Lovie Smith?
No, who was that 1 year
David
guy?
Culley?
Yes. That's probably the kind of guy that Carolina is going to probably have to hire.
Oh, they'll get more than that because they're not going to be cheap. They're going to pay. They'll pay up, but one of these bright young guys should not waste his first opportunity on that. I mean, they'll get somebody because they'll pony up, but I don't think you'll have to settle for somebody no one else is looking at. You'll probably just get the
problem with those bright young guys, though, Ryan, is the fact that they're eager to jump and eager to take a chance. And, if they unfortunately are all too eager and they end up with David Tepper, like you say, it could end up being career disability. Yes.
Ben Johnson's probably going to have his choice of any job that doesn't go to Bill Belichick.
Yes. Yeah. That particular kid, without doubt, he's going to do it the smart way. And he's going to take his time and he's going to get the right job. Again, the ties to Carolina, though, make it so enticing for him. I mean, going back home, that's tough to pass up. But Tepper would have to have some sales pitch in that meeting, even if he takes the meeting, which I think he would, just to see what's going on. Because you never know. I mean, dollars do matter. Depends how much he offers them and what kind of sales pitch he gives them. So we'll see. I mean, do you think Pete Carroll's done?
No.
Will he coach this year?
If somebody will hire him, it certainly sounded like he wanted to, and he's 72 years old. He doesn't have a year off, recharge the batteries in him the way Sean Payton does. He's 72. He's looking to hop right back in it. Somebody will hire him, I think. Somebody you're hiring, I think he'll coach this year. I just don't know. It would have to take maybe the Falcons if Belichick goes somewhere else. They seem to really want Belichick. If he goes somewhere else, are they going to pivot to inexperience or are they going to pivot to the second best Super Bowl winner on the market? Maybe Carolina for Pete if Belichick doesn't go there.
I agree with the Atlanta Falcons. I think that's
Atlanta,
a confirmation. Yes, right.
Yeah.
Wow, Atlanta. So I know you're covering for the Post. You're into the Belichick deal. So what is give us your best guess where he lands up?
The betting favorite is Atlanta, I believe. You guys are the betting experts, not me, right?
Yeah, let me see if I see any coaching lines.
I believe
here.
The betting expert is Atlanta. If I had to pick, I'll say he ends up in Washington.
Washington. Yeah. How's the owner, by the way? The new owner.
Very aggressive. So he's not going to he's not going to sit there and sit back and he's going to make his best pitch to Belichick. So he turned around the Devils, he turned around the 76ers. He owns a soccer franchise I don't pay any attention to, but he is not somebody to sit back on his heels and let things happen. He'll make it happen if he can.
Does Washington have enough capital to bring a quarterback in to satisfy what Bill Belichick might need?
They have the second pick.
Well, that's all they need then.
Yeah, they have the second pick, Drake May. So,
Yeah,
or they could trade it. So,
we're going to talk about mostly playoff teams, but I do have to ask you then, Ryan, because we've talked about this, and I have my stance. What would you do if you were the Bears?
oh, it's not even close. I mean, I don't even know why it's a debate. You have to trade Justin Fields. Have to. Like the way the NFL is set up, I'm sure everybody knows this, but just to run it down, you get 4 years on your rookie contract, then you have a 5th-year contractual option. So Justin Fields, after this year, right now, is eligible for an extension. He has 2 years left on his contract. 1 year left on his contract plus a 5th-year option that's going to pay him something like $26 million. Whereas you can reset that, and Caleb Williams' entire 4-year contract is worth like $33 million over 4 years instead of the finances you're talking about Justin Fields. Justin Fields has proven he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. He hasn't proven he's a $26 million a year or extension-wise $40 to $50 million a year quarterback. So to me, you start the clock over. It's not even debate. It's what the Jets did with Sam Darnold 2 years ago before they drafted Zach Wilson. It's like, okay, we kind of like Sam Darnold, but finance-wise, we just have to trade him. Obviously, Justin Fields is a better player than Sam Darnold, but it's the same idea where the finances dictate that you have to start the clock over. Plus, from all I've heard from the scouts on my Rolodex, Caleb Williams is in that Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, can't miss kind of class, and Justin Fields certainly isn't. So you take the chance on the better prospect with the better finances.
Well, how about they pair together Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr.? Can they possibly do that?
Not really.
Right? No, they can't. No, they can't do that.
You don't think they can maneuver with the picks they have?
They'd have to give up quite a bit.
They'd have, yeah. I mean, there are what, 12 or something is their other one. So to get from 12 to 2, they'd have to give up future first round picks. No, I don't think they could do that.
I mean, again, you could do what Houston did, but they're giving up a lot to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're trading Fields, you're getting back picks.
Yeah.
I guess if you told me you traded Fields for like a 2 and a 4.
Yeah, then you'd make the move, right?
Then you could say, okay, well, we've got enough picks this year that we could trade up from 12 to 2 by giving up next year's first. And we have Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison. I guess you could do that. Yeah, you could probably do that, I guess.
All right. So are we done with the head coaching? Is there any other coaches that are going to leave? I know people were kind of surprised about Pete Carroll. Is that it?
No, I don't think so. I mean, because they've changed the interview process, guys, there's less rush to fire people. You have more time to chew on it because the way playoff coaches, assistant coaches, it's a longer time to interview them. And obviously teams that have fired GMs want to hire their GM first. So no, I wouldn't be surprised if we have another opening pop up here tomorrow or before the end of the weekend. There's probably still, I guess the Saints have kind of lukewarmly committed to Dennis Allen. Could they reverse that? Eberflus, I know came back. He's coming back. I'm trying to think who else is on the. I'm trying to think who else is like on the bubble. Hasn't happened yet. No, my guess is no. My guess. I always thought that there would be 10. There's 8 right now. So, yeah, I would say.
Well, how about Tomlin? Is he definitely going to be back?
Yeah, there's a good one. Like that's of his volition. If he leaves, they're not going to fire him.
Sure.
But that's of his volition. Yeah, that's certainly one. Mike McCarthy. There you go, guys. There's another one.
That's true.
If they lose to the Packers on Sunday, he could be gone on Monday.
Yep.
Here's one other closing thought here, guys. I just put this in my coffee club newsletter for tomorrow about where the draft picks will actually be now that the final season ended. The Bears are actually number 9 in the draft order this year. And if you talk about tweaking or adjusting and making a move to somebody that's sitting 11, 12, or 13, 11 is Minnesota, 12 is Denver, and 13 are the Raiders, all 3 teams possibly looking for a quarterback. So maybe something like that ends up happening with Chicago.
I mean, there's if you look at it, Arizona, where's Arizona right now?
Number
Four.
four.
So they're kind of out the top three, which is pretty bad for them. And the top three need, well, again, everybody's going to be waiting on Chicago. That's going to be the one that everybody's going to wait on. And then, of course, same thing with the coaching. Everybody's going to wait on Harbaugh, and everybody's going to wait on that. And that'll have the trickle down pretty much with at least a handful of teams that might believe that they could be in the running for him. Half of them already know maybe they won't. So hopefully we'll find that out real soon. But like you said, Ryan, we've got at least another week, right? Next week is the week that they can start interviewing. Championship week or divisional round week?
No, I believe it's divisional week.
Okay. So, which I agree with. I don't think anybody thought, even fans thought that was ridiculous that their coaches would be interviewing at other jobs and they got a game coming up. So, but I'm glad at least they did what they did. All right. Now, let's talk about, we already went through a little bit regarding our surprises and et cetera for what we predicted before the season began. What we're going to do here is we're going to make our predictions in the AFC and the NFC, starting with the divisional rounds. And I'm going to start with you, Mark. I'm going to put you on the spot first in the AFC. We'll start in the AFC. And tell me what your two AFC divisional round matchups are going to be. So again, it's going to be based on seeding now. So you're going to tell me what are the matchups. You got the seeding, I'm sure, right in front of you. So you'll know how it'll break down depending on who you pick to win this week's games. Oh, Ryan, we talked about this on the Playbook ATS show on the Playbook Experts YouTube channel yesterday, and we weren't sure. Maybe you know. Was it a coincidence or not that the scheduling has the AFC with the first three games?
Yeah, that's a coincidence. Yeah.
Okay.
That's not done on purpose. That's TV. That's TV picking matchups. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Mark, who are you going to pick? I think I know who you're going to pick in one of the games, which I'm right there with you. But what do you got?
Well, because they were my sleeper Super Bowl team, my pick, and also my hometown team, the Cleveland Browns would be one of those two teams for me.
That's right.
I think
you 35-1, by the way, as a Super Bowl sleeper right now. The Browns, believe it or not, as good as this season as they had, and I'm sure this has everything to do with Flacco, and if Deshaun Watson was there, they'd probably be 10-1. But
20-1 now?
30-1.
Yeah, there you go. I played him at 40-1 early in the season, and I don't feel like I got a good buy at 30 if it's 30-1 today.
Yeah. Yep.
But nonetheless, it's been a season of two halves for the Browns, having Joe Flacco and not having Joe Flacco. And, with that defense they've got, I think it's really, really tough to dismiss this football team right now. If they get past Houston, which it could be a tricky situation with sort of a close right back or revenge or rematch for the Texans here, but I believe they will. It's tough to win with a rookie quarterback and a rookie head coach in the football playoffs. I think the Browns will be one of those two teams. Right now, it's hard to dismiss Buffalo for the way they're playing right now. We broke things down we matched up how every team in the playoffs fared against other fellow playoff teams this year.
In the newsletter.
Yes, and surprisingly, the team that fared the best of all of these 14 playoff teams was the Buffalo Bills. They went up against 5 or 6 other playoff teams. They won 5 of those games straight up against the spread and in the stats, in the yardage. And arguably,
yeah, if you look at this, just throwing it in there, Mark, and that's why there's a link in the description area for the viewers. You can purchase this playoff newsletter. Net yards, Pittsburgh minus 661, Buffalo plus 608. That's about a 1,200 yard difference in just the playoff teams.
Yeah, between the two and what they've done, you can toss in the fact that we've never seen a number 7 seed win a playoff game yet. I don't seriously doubt we'll see that with Pittsburgh this year. But I would see Cleveland and Buffalo on the dance floor at some point, somewhere down the road here.
All right. So you have Cleveland and Buffalo winning, and so that's by the way, it's exactly what I have is Baltimore against Cleveland and Buffalo against Kansas. Actually, I didn't even get you to say what you wanted. So you got to go ahead and give me the other ones then. You got Buffalo which you predicted along with Cleveland. So what about that Kansas City Miami game?
Well, I think that's almost a given to the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the team that is the longest in the face right now has to be the Miami Dolphins. They set their own destiny. They could have played this week and next week at home in balmy Miami in 80-degree temperatures. Now they're going to be in sub-freezing Kansas City, and if they somehow find a way to win that, they'll be in sub-freezing Buffalo. I've got to put Kansas City on that list this particular week as well.
All right. So again, I'm going right there with you. First seed Baltimore against fifth seed Cleveland, 2 seed Buffalo against 3 seed Kansas City. That will be the division round matchup. So says Mark in the AFC. That's exactly what I have. And Ryan, as you give your picks, the weather. Wow, in Buffalo and in Kansas City, especially in Kansas City, being it's a night game. And the fact that it's the Dolphins of all teams, but still the weather is going to be that's going to be the story.
There's actually a report out of Pittsburgh right now that if it snows tremendously in Western New York, there's a chance Steelers Bills could be moved to Cleveland. So,
you mean if there's like a major snowstorm?
Correct, that they could move the game to Cleveland as a neutral site.
That would be great for the NFL. That'd be terrific.
Usually Buffalo and Cleveland's weather mirrors one another, but given the fact that the forecasts are different, I could see that possibility happening.
So my matchups, I hate to be boring, but I think they're the same as you guys. I have the Browns winning and Chiefs winning. Truthfully, guys, I would pick the Dolphins under almost any other circumstances. I think they're a better team than the Chiefs. I know they played in London and the Chiefs won. I think they're a better team than the Chiefs. I am so down on the Chiefs. I don't think the Chiefs are going anywhere. I was looking for any way I could. If it was the Texans and the Chiefs or the Browns and the Chiefs, I might pick those guys to beat the Chiefs. But I just can't pick such a finesse team to win in -9-degree temperatures in Kansas. I just can't do it. Basically, I'm picking the weather. I'm not even picking the Chiefs. I'm picking the weather to beat the Dolphins. So I have no confidence whatsoever in the Chiefs. But I'm going to pick them because I could see the Dolphins. You could see pictures of like Hill on the bench, freezing, shivering with that, the air coming out, freezing out of his mouth. Like you can just see it where they're going to want no part of it. And so I'm picking the Chiefs to win, which sets up Chiefs, Bills, and Browns to win. Although I think that game could be highly entertaining. That Saturday 4:30 game is always kind of treated as the runt of the
invitational game or something.
Yeah, the runt of the litter of playoff games.
Yeah.
It's like the Texans invitational. Whenever they're in it. But I think that game could be highly entertaining, like a back and forth, both teams in the high 20s. Like I think that game could be really entertaining. But I'm going to go with the Browns. I'm going to roll on the Joe Flacco bandwagon. I think Stefanski's a terrific coach. And I think in the end, even though I think CJ Stroud will play well, I think Jim Schwartz will have something up his sleeve in the fourth quarter as a defensive coordinator that'll fool the rookie. And the Browns win a one-score game and set up their matchup with the Ravens.
Stefanski's never lost a game, by the way, guys, against the AFC South. He's 10-0 in his 10 meetings against them. I don't know if that'll automatically guarantee him a victory. But one other note here is that knocking Miami and how poor they played against quality teams this year. So too did Kansas City. They went up against 5 other bowl teams and they only beat one of them. So, this is a matchup of 2 teams that really struggled against quality opposition this year. So, if it weren't for the weather factor and it weren't for the Dolphins injury factor, and they're as beat up as a team could possibly be, I'd like to make a case for an upset there, but I'm like Ryan. I just think there's too many elements for them to overcome.
Yeah, it's sort of like if the Chiefs had to go play the Dolphins in this playoff game, and it was, and it was in September. And it was 100 degrees, and it felt like 120 with the humidity. So, but it's that much worse, of course, in the cold. It just is. We all know it. But then again, we don't play. So, look, Cooper was just amazing in the last matchup. 11, 265, 2 touchdowns. Of course, Houston had some injuries in that game, including Stroud. He's back. There's still a few players banged up there. The big deal, though, to me is when you have this is the first time in the Super Bowl era that the combination of a rookie quarterback and a rookie head coach has won a division title. It's a great accomplishment, but it also is a red flag, especially when you have to go up against that big-time defense that the Cleveland Browns have. And Joe Flacco, believe it or not, Joe Flacco can break the record for career road playoff wins. Do you know who he would beat with the record? He's currently tied with this player.
Well, it's not an obvious. It's not a Montana or a Hall of Famer.
It used to be Mark Sanchez. It's not still Mark Sanchez, is it?
No. Why do you say it's not an obvious?
Because you wouldn't set us up with an obvious.
Okay. If you believe that,
I'm gonna say Tom Brady.
it is Tom Brady. I did set you up for the obvious.
There you go.
So
He wouldn't have been with New England, but I think he won 4 with the Bucs, right? So
wow.
I think he won
That's
4
something.
road games with the Bucs.
Yeah,
So,
just the fact he has so many notches in his belt. Some of them had to come on the road. A lot of their games were at home because of their superior record. But no surprise, Tom Brady. That's a pretty good one. But by the way, guys, also Joe Flacco has never lost the first game of the playoffs in his career either. Well, he's 10-5 in his career in the playoffs, but every time he's played that very first game, he's won the first game every time, all 5 times.
Yeah, I think it's 6-0. I think
6-0, yes.
only the second playoff appearance since 2003 for the Browns. Of course, they did win one of their games a few years ago. Houston, again, keep an eye on the injuries. And in this series, too, because these two teams, of course, played just a few weeks ago, the favorite in the series is 6-0 straight up, 4-2 against the spread in the last 6 matchups since 2015. What about Miami, Kansas City being on Peacock, Ryan?
I think a lot of people are screaming about something that you're just screaming into the wind. This is the way it's going to go. It's not going to change. It's going to be more games like this in the future. Sorry, you're resistant to this. I'm sure there were people who used to scream when Monday Night Football got moved from ABC to ESPN. I'm sure, but I don't have cable. I have bunny ears on my TV. This is the way it is now, guys. There's nothing you could do about it. Does it suck if you don't have Peacock? Yes, it sucks, but nothing's going to change. This is the way it is.
Yeah, the answer is shut up and subscribe.
Or go to a bar.
Yep, exactly.
Or do it like me. You wake up in the morning and you watch it on replay. So, all right. Miami, Kansas City, just a couple of tidbits here. 8 straight division titles now for the Chiefs. The Chiefs, in the last 5 years, they're 11-3 overall in the playoffs, the last 5 years, and they've at least had 1 playoff win in each of those last 5 years. Miami, 1-5 straight up ATS versus winning teams this year, including the 21-14 loss to Kansas City in Europe back on November the 5th. Dolphins were a 1-point favorite in that game. The last Dolphin playoff win. Do you remember what the last Dolphin playoff win was, Mark? Have they been talking about it down there in South Florida?
Yeah, I'm down here, and I've been down here since 2004, and I don't recall them winning a game since then.
It was before that.
Yeah, it had to be before that.
Ricky Williams overtime touchdown run?
What team was it against?
I don't know.
Well, it was overtime, so it might have been this one. They beat the Colts in overtime.
I think it was a Ricky Williams overtime touchdown run. Did they win by 6?
Yes, 2000 actually.
Yeah, I think it was a Ricky Williams overtime touchdown run.
Dolphins 0-5 straight up, last 5 in the playoffs. It's their first back-to-back playoff appearance since 2001. So we'll see how this one goes. Dolphins are almost a 2-1 dog, which should be inviting to some people, but maybe they should check the weather forecast.
I'll tell you this, Greg. This is from my database. Double-digit. Well, they're not double-digit dogs. Pittsburgh's the double-digit dog.
Yeah, and in that one, as we segue over to Sunday at 1:00, they're almost a 4-1 dog in this matchup. Buffalo a 10-point favorite. I don't know if the weather's changed, but yesterday 25 degrees with 23-mile-an-hour winds. Hopefully, there's not going to get the snow you're talking about. What's the deadline? Do you know, Ryan?
I know. I just saw that report out of Pittsburgh while we were on this call. So
McDermott 4-5 in the postseason. Josh Allen just 2-6 against the spread in the postseason. 0-3 is a dog, so he's not a dog. But so in this spot, he's not all that bad. What do you think about Mason Rudolph, Ryan, who just came out of nowhere, and out of all the backups in the NFL this year, he's been probably right behind Browning, and now maybe even better because he's won all 3 of his games. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, a 120.4 rating, and they've won all 3 games straight up ATS by a 81-44 margin. So what about what Mason Rudolph was about to what has so far accomplished?
He's not the reason they're winning. The reason they're winning is their defense. I mean, I guess he's not, making critical mistakes. That's not the formula to win in the playoffs. The formula to win in the playoffs is not, punt, try to win 10-3 or 10-7, and don't throw an interception. Put the hand in your deep game in your hands of your TJ Wattless defense. No, the formula in the playoffs to win is have a shootout with Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, where if you have the ball, you're going to, at the end of the game, you're going to win. All due respect to Mason Rudolph. No, that's not him. They're going to get blown out in this game.
And Pittsburgh has got to be there defensively without TJ Watt, which has never been good for them anyway. I think they're 1-10 without him.
That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, just imagine being a Steeler fan and seeing that. I mean, that's just...
It's nice. Look, you made the playoffs. You have nothing to lose as if you're the Steelers, but this could be one of those games where you're like, wait a minute, this is a playoff matchup, like 31-3. You get one of those. Remember when the Bills pounded the Patriots a couple years ago? This is what that could be.
Wow. Okay. Pittsburgh 0-4 straight up and against the spread their last 4 playoff games by a 171-117 margin. They have not had a playoff win since 2016. As the Bills have won 4 straight AFC East titles. Just amazing. Just about 5-6 weeks ago, they were talking about, is this it for McDermott? And it just wasn't happening. The Dolphins had a 2-game cushion at one time. And all of a sudden, they just reel off the streak. They've won 5 straight, 6 out of 7. And by the way, they beat Pittsburgh last year, week 5, 38-3 as a 14-point favorite. Ryan believes we're going to see the same thing on Sunday. So that means you're definitely staying away from the money line in that one. Mark, do you feel the same way?
Do I feel the same way? Yes. Like I mentioned before, you've never seen a 7-seed win. They're going into the hottest team, I think, in the National Football League right now at the right time.
Okay.
With a quarterback who, probably shouldn't even be dressed for this game if it weren't for injuries. But he did beat out Kenny Pickett in that sense. Kenny Pickett, I think, is healthy enough to start, but he doesn't want to change the MO that's going on there, all the mojo at Pittsburgh. But I think it's a mismatch, this football game. Probably the biggest one on the card, and that's the reason Buffalo is that big favorite in this contest. By the way, those double-digit underdogs wild card round game 1, 11 of them, they've lost all 11 games on the scoreboard and only beat the spread 1 time.
Oh, so it doesn't matter. So you want to give up points. You want to see teams giving up points in the wild card round. You jump all over them. Give them away.
In mismatches, yes.
Yeah. All right. Let's continue in the AFC then. We all have the same 4 teams in the divisional round. So, Mark, you have Baltimore, Cleveland first. What you doing?
Well, the Browns have beat Baltimore this year. They know how to do that. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, I think the win was out Flacco. Is that correct?
Yes, that was with Watson, I believe.
Right.
It was. It was the only good game Watson played all season.
Right. In fact, it was. He had that strong second half and looked like he was finally coming into his own. But it also necessitated the call for eventually Joe Flacco making the football team. I kind of think that Cleveland's a dangerous dog in this game for a couple of reasons here. Number one, this defense can be ferocious. Their pass secondary, I think, is the best in the league. You've got also, aside from the defense, you've got the Joe Flacco factor here. And now they're playing a different brand of football. They're not the football team that opened the season and led the league in rush attempts per game the first month. Now they're the team that throws the football, which is really, in truth, part of a major recipe you need to win in the National Football League playoffs with. And Baltimore, sometimes you can say a week of rest is good, but now you're going to look at Lamar Jackson having not played in 3 weeks coming into the football game. Didn't play the regular season. He's off this week. And now all of a sudden, is he getting rusty? That's the question. No team knows Baltimore better than Cleveland, coming from the same division here. I think the game reeks of upset, personally.
I'm right there with you. I really believe, and this is sort of like going to be my pattern in these playoffs, and we've talked about it all year, Mark, as far as starting with the Dallas Cowboys as the best team in the NFL, and they're going to be scary all season after the first couple of weeks. And it just kept every 2 or 3 weeks, there was a new hot team, and that's the best team in the NFL. And that's kind of what I'm seeing here. I'm just gonna now look. We all know how dangerous Baltimore can be, and maybe this is the year Lamar Jackson and Harbaugh put it all together, and they just wipe out everybody the way that they've been wiping out teams lately. But I'll bet against that myself. I think that they're vulnerable because Lamar Jackson's vulnerable. He hasn't not lived up to the hype in the postseason, even though he could put it all together this year. No question about that. But I have no problem going against, favorites like that. I think there's a chink in their armor as a top favorite, and that's why I'll bet against them. So yeah, I think there's a big spot, and if they're going to get beat, I think they get beat early. I think if they win that first playoff game, I think the rest of the league's in trouble. But if they get beat, I think it's that first game, and it would be against a team that knows them, the Cleveland Browns. So I'm gonna go with you there, and take Baltimore, take Cleveland over Baltimore. How do you see it, Ryan?
I agree. It's a nightmare matchup for the Ravens. Like, I think they beat up on the Texans. You don't want to see the 1 seed never wants to see a team from its division in its first playoff game after having the week off. Mark, I don't know if you have numbers on that, but I just know parenthetically that is a 1 seed's worst nightmare is a third game of the season against one of their rivals, coming off them having rest, the other team coming in, hot off a win, feeling good. I just know it's not a good situation. And people want to say the Ravens always choke in the playoffs. Lamar struggled. They were the 1 seed in 19. They lost the first game to the Titans. Then Lamar struggled against the Bills the next year. They lost the Bengals last year without Lamar. They just haven't been a good playoff team ever since their Super Bowl run 12 years ago. All that said, I think the Ravens are criminally underrated. Like, I think they're like a dominant team. All 3 of their losses were in the fourth quarter this year. Did they lose? They did lose the finale, right? All 3 of their losses that Lamar played in, they had the lead starting in the fourth quarter, and then they had fourth quarter late collapses. They, for most of the season, had led they'd been in led games for all but 45 total minutes of their first 12 or 13 games of the season. I think they were like a dominant team the way that 1 or 2 lost teams are. And because for whatever reason in the fourth quarter they lost the game here or there on a field goal, we didn't see them that way. We were like, the Chiefs are going to catch them. The Bills are going to catch them. It's like, no, the Ravens were a dominant team. So that's why I'm going to pick the Ravens. I don't think they're just this year's 1 seed. I think we could look back on the Ravens and say, wow, that was a team that was really, really good.
Well, we've got 2 quarterbacks that are be in the playoffs this year, Ryan, that are going to be desperately out to prove themselves, that it's a misnomer that they choke in the playoffs. And Lamar Jackson being one of them. He's lost 3 of his 4 playoff games. The other, obviously, Dak Prescott with Dallas. And we'll talk a little bit more about him just down the road.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason maybe why you might believe, from what you're hearing, them being underrated because of that. I think there's a lot of people who are like, we've seen this before.
Yeah.
And that's why.
And I think it's different this year.
And by the way, they and I think they might be a little bit underrated as far as Vegas is concerned, because they should be the favorite. Right now, San Francisco is. But, I mean, didn't the Ravens prove that they were better just a few weeks ago?
Yeah, I think that's because the AFC is much harder than the NFC.
Okay. Next up, we all have the Buffalo-Kansas City matchup. So let's see how we go here. Ryan was the only one that went against Cleveland. Mark, Buffalo, Kansas City.
I'm looking back at my preseason list that I had here, and I think I had Kansas City #1 and Buffalo #2 in the AFC. So I really don't want to hop off that merry-go-round or that bandwagon. Although I agree with Ryan, Kansas City is really down this football season here. But the truth of the matter is, they're one of 5 teams this year in the National Football League that finished in the top 10 offensively and defensively. And the point I'm getting to is this: their defense has carried this football team this year, not their offense. I think Patrick Mahomes' lack of quality wide receivers has really hurt the team this year, but the defense has stepped up to the forefront for this team. And the injuries that Buffalo incurred throughout the course of the season on the defensive side, I think eventually catches up with them here. I'll throw my hat on Kansas City in this matchup.
It's the rematch we all want, right? Of the
Yes,
epic game. The epic game, the 17-second kickoff game, 11-second kickoff game, I think it was a couple years ago. The rematch. We're all hoping for like another one of those games where neither team punts and the lead changes 5 times in the last 10 minutes. I don't think that Kansas City is that type of team anymore. I still think Buffalo is. I still think Buffalo is explosive as ever. Kansas City was really more defensive and Mahomes reliant than they were big play explosive. Even Kelsey didn't have a great year. I know I'm going to get emails from Taylor Swift fans, but I just don't think that it's that kind of dominant power versus dominant power. And like when the Bills were 6-6 this year, it's like, what are they doing? This team is loaded. They're wasting a window, maybe their last window to be a championship caliber team. And all of a sudden they realized what I was saying. They put it together. They didn't just win 5 straight. They beat good teams in the 5 straight wins. So to me, Buffalo wins this game. I don't think it's an epic game. I think Buffalo unleashes years of frustration on Kansas City. The fact that it's home this year, that stadium will be deafeningly loud. I think everything's in line for the Bills to finally get past the Chiefs.
Yeah, the home field is a real good point for the Buffalo Bills in the contest because it's been Kansas City hosting for the most part. And
Mahomes has never played a road playoff game.
Yep.
Yes. And that will be the first time. And it'd be, who knows what's going to happen in a game like this. I have to say this. I was impressed with your statement about you're going to be getting emails from Taylor Swift fans. If you'd left the word fans off and you're going to be getting emails from Taylor Swift, I would have been really impressed.
All right. So crazy enough as it is,
Who you got, Greg?
We all had the same 4 making the divisional round, and we now all have different matchups in the championship round. So therefore I've got the only one that's left, which I'm taking Cleveland against Buffalo. So there you go. Cleveland versus Kansas City for Mark, Cleveland versus Buffalo for Greg, and Baltimore versus Buffalo for Ryan. So Mark, who's it going to be? Mahomes or your boys in the Super Bowl?
Well, again, I'll reiterate that I did have Kansas City as my top choice to begin the football season here, but I didn't see this offense dissipating like it has this football season here. We didn't realize, the lack of wide receivers and how much it would wear on this football team here. And I think there's a whole new thing about the Cleveland Browns right now. Joe Flacco is the story of the year in the National Football League right now. And why get off that bandwagon, especially when they have the #1 defense in the National Football League? They're going to pair it up against another really rock-solid, strong defense here, but I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns in another upset.
All right.
Browns to the Super Bowl with Joe Flacco?
With Joe Flacco.
I got him in the championship game, so it's not
like he hasn't been there, okay?
Is he getting another $50 million a year extension after this?
The best story that I heard, though, Ryan, was when they sat the starters for Cleveland last week, the Browns still paid him because he was paid on a per-game diem basis.
Wow. That's a good job. Yeah.
Yep. So he's a happy camper.
The only thing that you do have to be concerned with, in a way, is that obviously they're all good things. But the more he plays at his age, you just wonder. We just saw what happened in the NFL with all the injuries. The more he plays, he's going to be more susceptible to getting injured.
Right.
So But hey, you ride it as long as you can and keep him upright. What he's so good at too at this age is, and I saw it from the Jets, is anytime he sees a little bit of pressure coming, it balls out. So he does a really good job. Like he'll throw away just garbage passes because he knows I'm not getting hit, which is what you have to do. Live for another down. All right. I have Buffalo. Mark has Cleveland. Ryan, will you make it I already know what you're going to pick based on how much you tooted their horn just a second ago. So we're going to have 3 different teams in the Super Bowl.
I am going to pick Baltimore. I think it could be a classic game. I just really think Buffalo feels like a team of destiny, and Baltimore feels like a really good team. And when those two things collide, that's what makes great games, right? So I think if this game was in Buffalo, I think I'd probably pick Buffalo, the way that city rallies behind the team, the way that, all the heartbreak they felt. But with the game in Baltimore, I'm probably just going to pick Baltimore because, like I said, I think they're a dominant. I think their rushing attack is incredible. I think their defense doesn't. Kyle Hamilton's a stud. And then obviously Lamar can win games so many different ways. And we're finally seeing he has a receiver core that's coming into its own thanks to the rookie. So I wouldn't be surprised if Odell throws it back and makes some plays like he did in the Super Bowl for the Rams before he got hurt. If he digs deep and finds some Odell during this playoff run. So I like everything about the Ravens. If Mark Andrews was there, I wouldn't even hesitate.
He could be.
So I'm going to pick the Ravens.
It's possible. There's a chance he could be back.
You sound like Kirk Cousins' wife saying, "Oh, if they make the Super Bowl, he could play." Well, listen, Julie. The Vikings aren't making the Super Bowl, so
no, they aren't. And by the way, I do think Buffalo. Tell you the truth, I actually, since I'm picking them, I actually would feel better. Tell you the truth, if they're in this matchup, which they would be in Baltimore. I'd rather have Buffalo at least in the biggest game in a situation where I would feel, and I do, if it is Buffalo, Cleveland and Buffalo, I would actually feel a lot more nervous. Now I think the better matchup, of course, is Cleveland than Baltimore, but being an underdog and being on the road might actually be a good thing for Buffalo. As we know over the years, they've had a lot of problems in big time situations when they're expected to win. All right. We've got everything set for the AFC. Now let's see if we're going to pick all the same teams in the divisional round of the NFC. We're going to start, first of all, we'll go with you, Mark. So give us your 3 teams in the NFC to win their respective matchups, starting with Green Bay, Dallas.
Well, I'm going to go with the upset here with the Green Bay Packers.
Oh,
whoa!
Got the 7 seed.
There we go. First time ever. I'm going with the team that's playing their best football of the season against another team that's looking for identity right now. I mentioned the Dak Prescott factor here. Jordan Love is really beginning to come into his own. And you've got the Green Bay McCarthy aspect working in the football contest as well. It would be a headline maker. There's no question about that. Dallas losing at home where they've obviously accomplished most of their business at home.
16
but
straight.
I really like the way Green Bay has closed out this football season here. They're playing with house money right now, and I think they'll leave Dallas with more house money.
All right. So you have Green Bay, and then next up, the next matchup would be the night game on Sunday night, Rams-Detroit. Who are you picking in that one?
I'm going to stay at home with Detroit in the football game, for a couple of reasons here. Number one, while it's been said that the Rams are the team that nobody in NFC is going to want to have to play this year, the fact of the matter is they've struggled against other fellow playoff teams this year. The Rams have. They've gone up against 9 of them, and they're 2-5. 7 games, they've only won 2 of them that way. But what I really like in the contest is the fact that in Jared Goff, you have the player that was dissed and traded for Matthew Stafford. Now, this is Jared Goff's return back reply answer for the trade, especially on his home field. I know they met earlier in the season last year, but now at the scene of the crime in Detroit here, where the fans are absolutely gone bonkers here. I read the ticket prices for this game here. They're like off the charts. I think this is a chance for Jared Goff to make his statement and send the Rams packing and going back home. I'll go with Detroit in the game.
And then who will Detroit play in the divisional round? Because you have Green Bay at San Francisco. Will it be Philly or Tampa Bay?
Well, what's difficult here is Philadelphia was a nice choice, and we would have done this show mid-season here. We would have been all over the Eagles, all of us, okay? But something got inside of them, crawled up inside of them, and died. And for a football team that didn't even show up for the game that they needed the most at the end of the season against the Giants, it makes one scratch their head. My goodness, if you can't get up for the Giants game when there was a lot on the table in the football contest to even have a chance to win the NFC East, what condition is their mental frame of mind going into this football game here? But then the other side of the coin, you've got Tampa Bay here and Baker Mayfield. I think there's too much talent on Philadelphia not to win the football game, but I don't think they're going to go any further than just that, so I'll go with Philadelphia.
All right. Green Bay, San Francisco, Detroit versus Philly. We will be different in this particular conference. So we'll start. We'll first go to you, though, Ryan. And back to Green Bay and Dallas. Green Bay trying to snap that 16-game home winning streak by the Cowboys. McCarthy versus his old team. Who are you going to go with?
Yeah, I'm taking the Cowboys. I know. You can't pick the Cowboys. I know 30 years tell you not to pick the Cowboys in the playoffs, that something crazy is going to happen, like Tony Romo dropping a snap on a field goal or the Des Bryant catch that wasn't. Like, I know. And look, Jordan Love is a franchise quarterback. Like, what Jordan Love did. He had 10 games of multiple touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and 100+ quarterback rating. I mean, he's not a rookie, but for a first-year quarterback, that is an incredible season. That's better than Aaron Rodgers fared as his first season as a starter.
They're CJ Stroud-like numbers this year is what they are.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So, and he did some of that without Christian Watson, who he may be getting back.
But it's the youngest team in the NFL in a really big spot against a team that dominates at home. And I don't mean dominates wins. I mean embarrasses people at home. So I like the Cowboys in this game. Again, the McCarthy factor, I don't trust him if the game is close. Is he going to manage the clock right? I just don't think the game's going to be close. I think the Cowboys are going to lead the game by 10 to 14 points pretty much throughout. Anytime it's one of those games, anytime the Packers score, I see the Cowboys answering it. I see them winning by 10 to 14.
7.5 point spread. You're getting about 3-1 on the money line with the Packers. I'm going to agree with you, Ryan, and take Dallas to win the game. I'm going to take the Packers to cover. Prescott 1-5 against the spread as a quarterback in the postseason. 0-3 as a favorite. Cowboys lost to Green Bay last year in McCarthy's first and only matchup against his former team. But that wasn't just it for this rivalry, this series, because the Packers have owned the Cowboys lately, winning 4 straight up and against the spread, all as dogs, including a 2016 playoff win. Matt LaFleur 2-3 straight up ATS in the postseason, but 0-2 straight up and against the spread on the road. The Cowboys are 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 home playoff games. So all of that is why I'm taking the Cowboys to win, but not to cover. Let's move on to the next one, and that's the Rams and Detroit. So who's going to win that one, Ryan?
This breaks my heart. I'm covering the Super Bowl this year. I'll be in Vegas. If you ask me, like, what's your dream matchup to cover, it might be like Buffalo, Detroit. Like, it really might be, because it would just be so fun to have those 2 teams and those 2 fan bases. And here I am, I'm going to pick against Detroit. And like if I was a fan, I would want Detroit to win. I'd be rooting for them. Just what I've seen with my eyes. Sean McVay, I just think he'll have something up his sleeve to fool the Lions. I almost feel like there's too much pressure on the Lions, like an absurd amount of pressure for a team that hasn't won in 30 years and is at home and is facing their former quarterback, and their fans are threatening each other not to wear Stafford jerseys to the games because this isn't a celebration of Stafford. Like, it just feels like there's too much on the Lions, like a suffocating amount of pressure. And it just feels like one of those games where the Rams score quick and then the Lions get tight, and then Dan Campbell does something like goes for a 4th and 7 at the 50-yard line. to something really bold that backfires. Brian Daboll did that last year against the Eagles in the second round of the playoffs. Like, was a huge underdog, and you could tell felt the pressure and went for a silly fourth down, and all of a sudden the game spiraled out of control. I just feel like that could happen to the Lions, and Rams have won seven of their last eight, I believe. So they're scorching hot coming into the game. So I think it's going to be a real heartbreaker for the Lions, like just a total buzzkill to have waited all this time to lose to Matthew Stafford is like the cruelest fate in the world. But I think that's what's going to happen.
All right. Well, we'll see about. If you're thinking about the fan base in Michigan, this could be a hell of a week if they can close the week the way they started it. A lot of Michigan Lion fans there for sure. The last playoff win for the Detroit Lions was back in 1991 when they beat the Dallas Cowboys with Barry Sanders. Do you know who the quarterback was for the Lions, gentlemen? 1991.
Bobby Lane.
Rodney Pete.
Eric Kramer.
Oh, wow.
Ah.
And do you know who he faced in the game against the Cowboys?
Not Troy Aikman?
Yes. It was Troy Aikman's second playoff start. He won his first playoff start the week before in the wild card game. And then came up week 2. Detroit beat him there. And, of course, Detroit would go to Washington and get beat up there. So they've lost their last 9 playoff games. The Detroit Lions have. The Rams, keep in mind, they're undefeated with Matthew Stafford in the postseason. 4-0 with a Super Bowl win. So
it's one year.
1 year. Yeah. And they were also on the road once, don't forget, as a road dog. And they won that game, beating the Tampa Bay Bucks. The Rams beat Detroit. Remember, you guys talked about that one. Last year, they were a 16-point favorite. Week number, 6, 7, I believe. Week 7. The Rams were 5-1. The Lions were 0-6. This was last year. This is the NFL. That's why you love the NFL. And now they're both playing each other in the postseason. And keeping in mind, that was 2 years ago. Keeping in mind that even last year, the Rams just were decimated with the injuries, and they had no roster this offseason. Now, obviously, they were very fortunate to not have a rash of injuries because they had no depth. But they've really done an underrated job. The personnel, you mentioned, of course, the coach, but that front office has done a really good job to get this team back in the postseason with limited draft capital and depth going into this particular offseason. All right, so there you go. The split is going to go to Detroit. So I'm taking Detroit. Mark's taking Detroit. And Ryan is going with the Rams. Let's wrap it up. Ryan, Monday Night Football. Eagles, 3-point favorite against the Bucks. And you know what's funny about this? This is my best and worst prediction in the playoffs before the season began. Not believing the Eagles would make the postseason and taking the Bucks as my playoff sleeper at 100-1. That was Super Bowl odds at the time. But to win the division when no one thought they would. Now they're playing each other. But be all honest with you, Ryan, I thought the way that the Eagles ended the season 1-5 straight up, 0-6 against the spread was going to be how they were going to be most of the season, which is why I went with them to miss it out. But a little too late. You're close to Philly. What do you know? What are they saying? What's like watching even the Arizona game? There were some plays, some calls in that game where I'm shaking my head. The fans are shaking their head. It was almost like, what are they doing? It's like, what do you know is going on there?
It's a team that's lost confidence in their coaches. I think that's what I think has happened here. And I think that's a dangerous thing to do in the playoffs. I think they'll probably survive the Bucks. I mean, I don't trust Todd Bowles or Baker Mayfield, so I don't trust the combination of them. But this is not a team that's going to the Super Bowl like they were when they were 10-1. This one and done. Sirianni could get fired, which is hard to believe. AJ Brown doesn't seem to be getting along with Jalen Hurts, and they're supposed to be like best friends. So it just something's rotten in the locker room. You love that stat about Super Bowl losers not making the playoffs the next year. Well, this doesn't look anything like a playoff team. So I'll take the Eagles, but not with any confidence. I'll tell you the thing I'm most disappointed about, guys, is that The Bachelor starts Monday, January 22nd, and not Monday, January 15th. Because if The Bachelor was on Monday night, I'd rather watch that than the Eagles-Bucks game.
Oh,
Yeah. This is definitely a game that's going to be tough for people to tune in on, especially since it's a Monday night in the postseason. It just doesn't really feel right anyway. So, all right, we'll see how it goes. Again, look, it's obvious I'm taking Tampa Bay because of the way the Eagles are playing. If the Eagles were playing just the way they played a month ago, that'd be different. But I'm just gonna. I just don't think they have any confidence right now, and even though Tampa Bay had a very sluggish win in the game against Carolina, they did win 5 of the last 6 games. They only had one just terrible loss against New Orleans during that stretch. By the way, there are thunderstorms they're calling for, which could also be interesting because if you have thunderstorms and it's a Monday night game, I mean those delays can last an hour, sometimes even more. So if they have a delay on Monday night, this game might not end till 1 o'clock in the morning. So we'll keep an eye on that. And Eagles, by the way, are trying to get some revenge. How about this? Let's talk about week 3 though. Eagles beat Tampa Bay 25-11 as a 6-point favorite on Monday Night Football in Tampa Bay. So we've never seen 2 teams play. I know this for a fact because they just started playing Monday Night Football, but no teams have ever played Monday Night Football in the same year, in the same venue. The Eagles are going to look to beat them twice in the same season on Monday Night Football.
in a Monday Night Football rematch.
Yes. Never had that. That's a stat, Mark, that you don't even have to look at your database for. So we'll see how that last goes. By the way, the last road playoff game for the Eagles was when they lost to Tampa Bay in 2021. That was the beginning of the Eagles. I do have to quickly just you said Sirianni. Why would that be? I can understand the assistant coaches. Everybody's talking about you lost the assistants, so all he has to do is hire good assistants. Why are they all on Sirianni?
I don't know. That's Philly. That not meeting expectations. That's the buzz out of Philly, is that he could be in trouble if they collapse here in the playoffs. Lost locker room, whatever. Quick trigger owner on Doug Peterson. That's just the buzz that Philly. That's what people in Philly are talking about and writing about.
All right. So
personally, I don't think it makes any sense, but
yeah, I mean, come on. You win a Super Bowl one year, and the next year you want to fire the guy. All right, Mark, you've got Green Bay, San Francisco, Detroit, and Philly. Ryan has the Rams and the Niners, the Eagles and the Cowboys. Wow, we got some divisional matchups there in the next round. And I am going with Tampa Bay, San Francisco, and Detroit and Dallas. Mark, who do you got? Green Bay, San Francisco.
Well, in our preseason prognostication, that's the matchup I had, was Philadelphia and San Francisco. I'm going to go with that, as poorly as the Eagles are playing right now. I think they're going to get out of Tampa Bay by the skin of their teeth, and that would get them back in the winning frame of mind at the right time of the football season here. I think Tampa can cash this ticket. Wild card home dogs that have same season revenge like Tampa does. They're 10-1-1 against the spread in the history of the wild card round. So that's a favorable bet it would be for Tampa Bay in the game. But I think Philadelphia some way, somehow is going to revert back to their first half form as opposed to this. And I think it's going to be because Tampa Bay allows them to do that. So put me down with, if you will, Philadelphia and San Francisco. I'm sorry. Put me down with Philadelphia.
Yeah, you have Philly and Detroit. So who wins the Philly-Detroit matchup?
I think Philadelphia is going to win that matchup.
And
they're going to get out of Tampa alive, and then they're going to
they'll get their confidence back.
Yes, and steamroll Detroit.
Kind of bold, but we'll see. Green Bay, San Francisco. You're going to stick with San Francisco there?
Absolutely.
So that means you're going to have San Francisco, Philly, sort of like what everybody was thinking anyway.
Yeah, somehow you got back there, Mark.
Yeah, we'll see if that can happen. And Ryan, how are you going to go? Give us your championship round teams.
So I have Philly, Dallas.
Yep.
And which obviously would be Fox's dream matchup,
yeah.
like ratings bonanza on a 4:30 on a Saturday.
And even the West Coast would be real happy with the Rams and the Niners. They'd get some good ratings out west.
And they split the Eagles and Cowboys split their 2 regular season matchups. Like I said, I think I'm with Mark. I think the Eagles get by the Bucs on the skin of their teeth again, and then they meet their maker with the Cowboys. I just think that it's just not. If this game was played in early December or late November, I'd tell you I'm picking the Eagles. This is just 2 teams headed in 2 different trajectories. Give me Dallas to go back to the NFC Championship game for the first time since 1995.
Wow.
And then on the other hand, who did they meet in that 1995 NFC Championship game? The San Francisco 49ers. Give me a throwback 1990s or early 1980s before I was born, the catch. Like, give me a 49ers Dallas NFC Championship game for all the throwback fans, eras gone by. The 49ers over the Rams to meet Dallas in the championship.
Ryan, you got to start the chant right now. We want throwback jerseys when that matchup occurs.
Yes, I want all the glitz. I want all the glamour. Parade out all your have Aikman and Young sitting on the field. I want it all.
You would have the networks going crazy with Baltimore, Buffalo, and Dallas, the 1-2 seeds playing in the championship. That would be a marketer's dream.
I work for the Post. The Post is owned by News Corp. Fox is owned by News Corp. Fox, this is your ratings bonanza.
There you go. I want to raise. All right. So you both have San Francisco in the championship round. Eagles for Mark, Dallas for Ryan. I am taking the San Francisco. I'm going in my final 4 with, again, I said Detroit is going to take on Dallas, and then I'm going to have San Francisco and Tampa Bay. So I'm taking San Francisco against Detroit in the championship round. I'm going to say Detroit's going to beat Dallas, exact some revenge. And my pick is going to be the Detroit Lions beating San Francisco and getting to the Super Bowl. So that's how I'm gonna go. I'm gonna make.
Wait, do you have Buffalo,
yes.
Detroit? That's the one. That's what I want to see.
When you said it, I was like, oh, interesting. Right? That's what I have. So all right. So Mark,
that would be fun to cover.
Yeah, it would. San Francisco and Philly. Who's taking on Cleveland in the Super Bowl?
Well, that's, I'm sort of derailing off of our preseason predictions here. And, looking at Buffalo and Kansas City, but along came Joe Flacco. That's the name of that story.
That would be great.
Yeah. But
30-1.
Yep.
Heck, I'm putting money on it. You never know.
Well, whenever you got a number 1 defense and a big price like that, you're always in the game. You've always got a chance. But Super Bowl, I got to put in the Super Bowl matchup here, San Francisco over Philadelphia.
All right. So San Francisco against Cleveland in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Ryan, who's playing Baltimore in the Super Bowl?
I want to say Dallas. I'm so worried about Mike McCarthy in close games. I'm so worried he's going to do something stupid, challenge the wrong play, not challenge the right play. I'm just so worried about it. But I'm also not going to pick 2 1 seeds. I'm not going to just do Trump. So I'm going to go with Dallas.
Wow.
I'm going to hope it's not a close. I'm going to hope beyond hope that it's not tied with 2 minutes left. Because if it's tied with 2 minutes left, the 49ers are going to win. I'm going to hope Dallas is playing from ahead. And I'm going to give you a Dallas Cowboys NFC Championship.
Wow. Talk about breaking the ratings if it's Baltimore and the Cowboys in the Super Bowl. So, Mark, you have San Francisco, Cleveland. I have Detroit and Buffalo. I'm picking Buffalo to win the Super Bowl. And Mark, who are you taking to win the Super Bowl?
That would have to be the San Francisco 49ers.
Okay, so Flacco's dream ends at the Super Bowl.
How heartbreaking would that be? He gets all the way to the Super Bowl and loses. Oh my God!
At least he's got a Super Bowl win, so that's good. But it wouldn't be good for Cleveland, of course.
But the key thing there, Ryan, is anybody that bet Joe Flacco, like I did, to win the Super Bowl can hedge that bet when he gets to the Super Bowl. So
Mark, 30 seconds or less. That actually happens. Who's Cleveland's starting quarterback week 1 next year?
Next year, if I think Deshaun Watson is. I don't
Even
think
if Joe Flacco goes to the Super Bowl, Deshaun Watson's the starting quarterback next year.
And I think Joe Flacco would back Deshaun Watson as a team player that he is. Yes.
And to
But
tell you the
Deshaun Watson's
truth,
their player of the future. Joe Flacco's their player for right now.
and by the way, that
Okay.
would be better anyway because Watson probably will get hurt and Flacco won't have to play the whole season. So that might work out with Flacco as the backup. All right, Dallas and Baltimore. You got to go with Baltimore, Ryan. You tooted their horn too much.
I did, and I am. Give me Baltimore. I love Harbaugh as a coach. I love Jackson as a player. Honestly, the only thing I think that could slow down Baltimore is if Lamar Jackson gets hurt. I think that's the only way I think the Ravens don't get to the Super Bowl and probably win the Super Bowl is if frail Lamar Jackson gets hurt somehow. Definitely could happen. We've seen playoff matchups. The NFC Championship last year ruined by a quarterback injury. But if he stays healthy, I think Baltimore's a train that is steamrolling to a title.
All right, so I've got to ask you, Mark's already got the upset, which is Cleveland, of course, at 30-1. So what would be like an upset for you in the playoffs, whether it's a team making a run with heavy odds like Cleveland or a game in the first round? Give me an upset somewhere, a significant upset.
You asking Ryan or me?
I'm asking Ryan. You've got the Browns.
Well, my upset in the first round was the Rams over the Lions.
It's not big enough. Yeah, you got to give me either the Packers. You got to give
the Packers and the Steelers are dead. Neither one of those teams.
Okay, well, then you got to give me a team.
The Packers, neither one of those teams is making a run. So the 2 6 seeds are the.
Yeah, you'd have to give me. I'll tell you the teams you have to get. You have to give me. You got to give me either the. And again, making a run, not win the Super Bowl, but making a run. The only teams left really you got would be Cleveland,
Dolphins.
Or if you think the Rams can make a run.
The Dolphins, because I don't believe in the Chiefs. So if they somehow,
I'll give you that. Okay.
If the
Dolphins in the Super Bowl at 18-1.
If the Dolphins can somehow survive the weather, then I like them.
Okay.
I like the team. I like the team. I like the coach. I like their speed. If they can somehow survive the weather, like I said before, I don't think they're losing to an opponent. I think they're losing to Mother Nature. So if they somehow survive that, I like them.
Yeah, I heard. I don't know, but I heard in the news a few days ago that the injured list was 10, and then it doubled to 20 when the weather forecast came out.
Yeah.
You know, Ryan, I'm going to call this one point out here, being down here in Miami and following this team pretty closely. Mike McDaniel has really come into the limelight. The guy just simply does not make adjustments at halftimes in his football games. We saw that again in the Buffalo game. That was a huge game for them to win and stay home, get camped. They didn't do it. He got shut out in the second half. And if you look at his 6 games against other winning teams this year, after the half, he got outscored in those football games 86-42. He's got to do a better job making some sort of adjustment in the second half. Maybe we'll see it this weekend. We'll see.
Yeah. Again, I don't like the Dolphins. Greg put me in a corner and told me I had to.
I understand.
I could have sworn early this season he was a superstar. It just shows you how quickly people, the media sometimes goes out there and tries to make teams or individual superstars in like a week or a half or a quarter. Or
it's a league of overreactions. Yeah,
it's crazy. And now all of a sudden he's the problem. All right, Ryan, appreciate it. Hopefully we'll get an opportunity to maybe talk again during these playoffs at some point, no later than the Super Bowl. And again, you're going to be working on, are you still working on, or is that already a story, the Belichick story that's out?
No, I got to get back to it. Got to get back to reaction to it.
Okay, so and that'll be out at some point next few days?
Oh, yeah. It'll all be out tomorrow.
Excellent. Yep. Well, we're looking out for it.
Not to mention what's going on with the Giants. I don't know if you heard, but Wink Martindale is no longer the defensive coordinator. So,
did he step down or was he fired?
Let's call it a situation.
Parting of the ways?
Let's call it a situation where he forced his way. They tried to force him to quit. he basically did quit without quitting, and they found a way to mutually part ways after a couple of F-bombs. So,
I hear you.
Well, we'll talk more about that at some point. We'll definitely get you on the network to update us what's going on with the Giants. So, Ryan, appreciate your time. And Mark, also, of course, I'll be talking to you next week in another round of the playoffs. And we'll see each other on the Playbook ATS podcast on the Playbook Experts YouTube channel next week.
Hey, Ryan, keep up the great work. I love reading your stuff in the Post, and I'll be anxious to see what your Bill Belichick story is all about.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks.
Take care, guys.